Shut up, compressor. Hey everyone, Matt with Duke's Models here, coming to you for the first time in quite a long time. It's currently the last few days in 2019, and I'm looking back on what's been honestly probably my most productive year in modeling since, I don't know, 2013, 2014, something around then. I got 6 actual builds completed this year, and no bullshit 1/72nd or 1/44th scale things to sort of pad the numbers. It was legit builds all the way through. Started out the year with another Italeri F104 in Danish colors, all the beat the shit greens. Zukimura F4 Phantom, Trumpeter P-47 Razorback, a Tamiya 1D Corsair, a Hobby Boss Dana 152mm self-propelled gun thing, and a Battletech Destroyed Tomahawk Warhammer thing that I basically repurposed as a 1/35-ish scale leaf blower. So overall, definitely pretty happy with the way the year's gone, and looking ahead to 2020 and what comes next, I've been sort of laughing a bit at the way that planned builds sort of pile up while you're trying to push through your current builds, and by the time you're done, what you wanted to do isn't what you want to do anymore. And so back in, I don't know, September, October-ish, I had it set in stone. I was going to tackle a 1/32nd Hasegawa P-47M and one of Hobby Boss's new 1/32nd B-24s. Well, long story short, the B-24 has sat and sat and sat and sat. In order to actually build it in a way that I can do anything with it in the future, the wings need to be removable, and they are not designed that way. I have some plans that involve magnets that could maybe get there, but my concern is that the magnets still don't provide enough positive, enough positive force to like suck those things into the fuselage and get a good wing root seal. And I'm honestly not sure of other ways to do that that don't massively destroy the structural integrity of the kit itself. So just thinking of the size and all that, I've decided to wait on that for a while. As far as the Hasegawa jug, I've wanted to do a 63rd Fighter Squadron P-47M for a long time. The two-tone blue scheme is something that really fascinates me. But that fucking Hasegawa kit, anybody who's familiar with it, the cowl is 4 pieces. And the 4 pieces just kind of like sit with each other, and you're supposed to build them around the engine, which first of all, fuck that. Second of all, at the leading edge, the forward cowl ring, I have yet to see anybody build one of these Hasegawa jugs in a way where it's not immediately obvious that these are 4 pieces glued together. Now I realize the real thing kind of broke down the same way, but you don't see these like giant chunk gaps right at the leading edge there. And so I then had the idea of, hey, P-47M is basically visually almost identical to a late P-47D. And between stealing maybe a Hasegawa prop, the Trumpeter kit has everything I need. It's got the different crankcase cover for the R2800, all that kind of stuff. I can make my own damn markings. And so I was going to go that route, but I've built 2 of those Trumpeter jugs now, and they are a lot. There are things that need to be corrected for, and I just honestly don't know if I have patience to see that through with everything that's going on in the surrounding life outside of the bench. Things like I would have to, my theory is, thin the wings in order to fix that wing to fuselage fit, which always seems to sit low. The wing seems a little bit thicker than where it sits on the fuselage. Even all the way out to the navigation lights seem a little bit narrow compared to the wings, so the entire wing would have to be thinned a little bit, which is a huge pain in the ass. So, not going to do that. And while I was batting around what I was going to maybe try to tackle instead, or sort of working up to that, a few people over in Scale Motto's critique group, who typically build larger scales, decided they were going to, do some easy street type stuff and play with 1/48 for a while. Will Pattison is actually doing a very extensive, exhaustive video build series of Tamiya's excellent new Spitfire Mark I, and that honestly was sort of the inspiration for me of, I haven't built a 1/48 World War II kit in years. I think since early 2013 when I finished up Hobby Boss's ME262. So it's been a while. I've tried a couple times to come back, and it's always been like, it's too damn small. I don't want to deal with it. But I don't know, maybe I've matured a bit, or maybe I'm impatient and I want to get to the painting stuff faster or whatever. But I decided if I'm going to give 1/48 a shot again, I may as well do it with one of the best 1/48 kits ever made. And that is Tamiya's excellent P-47, and of course a P-47M. Now, why the P-47M? I mean, it served in limited numbers late in the war, and it was basically a hot rod. You know, it had the most goosed R2800 possible at the time, and it was designed essentially to hunt jets and V1s, and it did that very well. The reason that I am kind of honed in on this is, first of all, I built every other form of jug out there. I built Razorbacks, I built, the regular D bubble top, filleted tail, non-filleted, all across. The M has different paint schemes that set it apart, and it has, that last gasp. This is one of the pinnacles of jug development. The 63rd Fighter Squadron, part of the 56th Fighter Group, had, as you can see sort of on the box side here, this really interesting two-tone blue scheme with bare metal leading edges and bare metal undersides and all that sort of stuff. So it's a visually fascinating scheme, and the one I'm going to go after, I believe it's UNK, I might be mistaken though on that, but it has this big ass fireball on the cowl. It's this fireball, right behind it. Really cool looking, very striking scheme. That sort of reds and oranges to set off against the blues and all that. Part of the reason I want to do this is there is this huge amount of, I won't say huge amount, but there's basically just flat out uncertainty over what colors the 56 actually used with their P-47Ms. We know that I think it was the 62nd, used a mix of RAF colors, so it was like medium sea gray and dark green. That one's pretty well established. The 61st used, I think the current consensus is black, but basically that, which, I find boring. So for the 63rd, they used two different shades of blue, and there's all kinds of, nobody can really know what it is. I've seen it laid out as everything from dark sea blue and intermediate blue from the Navy, of all things, to insignia blue and RAF azure, which I don't see it. Let's see, where is azure? Here we go. So azure, and this is the US blend. The RAF blend seemed to be even more purpley, but it's got a very violet purple tone to it there are like two color photos of the 63rd P-47M, and they show a very light, pale, not violet looking blue. It's probably closer to something like air superiority blue, which didn't exist at the time, but we might be mixing our own. So I've been doing a lot of thinking on this, and basically it comes down to what potential colors could be used by the U.S. Army Air Force in 1945 at an airfield in England. Now, Bokstead was specifically USAAF. It was not shared with the RAF or anything like that. It was straight up American. So that leaves a couple of possibilities in terms of like what's likely. Now, we will never know for sure what colors they actually use. If we haven't figured it out now, I don't think we're ever going to. And you have to remember that, there are instances of pilots and ground crews getting paint for their aircraft from furniture stores. I think it was Shangri-La that actually had it, like the spinner was painted with red paint from a furniture store. So things get sourced from weird places, and that may well have been the case. However, we're talking painting entire squadrons of aircraft here. And given that again, I think it was the 62nd, was painted with RAF colors, the medium sea gray and RAF dark green, it stands to reason that the 56 had access to British colors to paint their aircraft. So I think insignia blue, which is a pretty good call for the dark blue. In the color photos, it seems to be like a direct match, 1-to-1 for the stars and bars on the insignia. Cool, I can play with that. For the light blue, I'm trying to think what would be actually in operation at the time, or they might have stocks of lying around. Azure is a slight possibility, but Azure was part of the tropical scheme that played in North Africa, which was well dead and gone by 1945. So it's possible they brought a bunch of paint back and had it stuffed in a barn somewhere, I guess. But there was a blue color at the time that was in use with photo reconnaissance units, and that is PRU blue, which, excuse me, popping in and out of the frame all the time, is not violet at all. Now, I'm worried it might be a little bit too dark, at least in MRP's mix, but those set up pretty well together. So I'll be doing a lot of paint testing on mules to find something that, honestly, well, it may not be historically accurate, is more visually pleasing to my eye, because a lot of these, the light blue is too vibrant, the dark blue is too blue. I think there's like a saturation thing that needs to be dealt with here. The blues need to sort of coordinate the right way, and yeah, we'll get there. But it'll be a fun challenge to do, and this thing will be the thing to do it with. In terms of aftermarket, I'm kind of on the fence with a few things. So obviously, tires are going to happen. Metal blast tubes are going to happen. Beyond that, a Yahoo instrument panel for obvious reasons. They look amazing. I may or may not go with an Aries cockpit. I've got it kind of very loosely taped together here, and the detail is good, but I don't know if it's good enough to justify the hassle of resin. I'll see how it fits. I mean, this one seems like one of those rare ones that may actually fit perfectly into the fuselage, but if it doesn't, then I may end up just using the kit parts. Seat, I've got a quick boost seat that has the belts on it. I may use that. I may go ahead and use some HGW belts instead. I may or may not try to adapt their positive rivet set for the Razorback to this, just to give a bit of extra visual oomph to the surface, because to me it doesn't have surface rivets. Or I may just add them in a couple places. The problem is they only ever made it for the Razorback, which is very obviously not what this is. So there would be some fuselage issues back here in terms of coverage. So it may be a thing where I apply those in certain targeted places, like the cowl or, you know, the gun doors on the wings, things like that, under the assumption that these things were probably, given the hot rod nature of the M, had their rivet smoothed down, puttied over before it was painted. So that's that. The other thing I'm getting ready to start, I'm pretty damn excited about this too, is what I think is honestly one of the most significant kits to come out since I have gotten back into modeling. And that is HK Models B-17G Flying Fortress, 1/48 scale. Now, the last time that somebody made a new tool 1/48 scale kit, not a repop, but a new tool kit, was before I was born. It came, the monogram kit came out in 1975. So we're talking 45 years ago at this point. And holy shit, I cannot believe it has taken that long. You know, you get a new 109 every year, you get new Mustangs every 5 to 10 years, Spitfires falling in there here and there too. B-17 is arguably, well, not arguably, I would say it is the most famous four-engine aircraft of the war. It's definitely among the most well-known, played a pretty significant role. I mean, it was the reason that a lot of these planes were up in the air, was escorting and trying to shoot down these damn things as they lumbered along in the sky. And a few years ago when HK finally dropped their 132nd B-17, I remember thinking, okay, that's cool. I don't love the B-17 enough to figure out like building custom display units to hold something like this, or figure out where the hell it's going to go. 1/48 is a different story. It's big, it's still got a lot of size to it, but it's just small enough that I can cram it into my existing display cabinets and things like that. So to me, it was always the more natural scale for a four-engine bomber, something that your average modeler could probably go pick up. And I think having this out now, this is going to be like when a few years ago Jeep decided to add an extra set of doors to the Wrangler, and the four-door Wrangler became far and away the best-selling Jeep out there. I think it outsells the two-door like 5-1 these days or something. This is going to be the same way. The 132nd series is probably still going to be HK sort of like flagship thing, but I see a lot of 148th kits coming out from them in the future with their bombers. I mean, they could downscale the B-25, they could downscale the Lancaster, make just a shitload of money off these things without too much effort. And I know from reading online that there is quite a discussion about the accuracy or lack thereof in this kit. Apparently, something about the engine nacelles being too high or too low on the wings, on the leading edges or something. This is the beauty of my stance on accuracy, which is, if it's not something I wouldn't notice without the internet, oh well. And if I do notice it, it's fully within my purview to give a shit or not give a shit. And if you've got a problem with the accuracy of the kit in terms of shape and whatnot, HK is, very easily findable on the internet. Go yell at them. I have every intention to build what they gave me and not try to correct the position of the engine nacelles or make the fuselage slightly less fat or whatever problems people have with this kit. Now, in terms of detail, it looks pretty damn good in the bag so far. I mean, if you look at the wing surfaces here, I'm trying to do the bag trying to show you without catching the light with the bag and more show off sort of the rivet detail. But this is like Tamiya Corsair level surface detail. I've had a quick look through the instructions, and it seems reminiscent of the 132nd kit. Maybe not exactly, but they definitely share a common history. I think this one is engineered to be a bit of a simpler, faster build. So cool on that front. In terms of scheme for this, honestly, there are a ton of B-17s out there, right? And there are many schemes that have been done very well over the years. And what I want to do is I didn't want to do bare metal, but I didn't just want to do olive drab either. Ideally, I wanted to find something that was a bit of a mix, and a bit of a mix for a legitimate reason. And so I am going to go with a ship called Second Patches from the 99th Bomb Group out of the 15th Air Force. So the Mediterranean theater, flying over Italy, all that kind of fun stuff. And it had a overall olive drab scheme with a little sort of tasteful little shark mouth over the chin turret. And beyond that, it had a bare metal tail, a bare metal crew door on the aft. Which side was that? On the aft starboard side. And it had a bare metal outer wing also on the starboard side. So basically, you can see the big reinforcement line here where the outer wing gets bolted to the inner wing. This whole big gorgeous section here will be bare metal, and that'll be a fun thing to do. It's also a pretty battered looking ship. It's obviously seen some shit, so it'll be a fun painting challenge, a fun weathering challenge, all that kind of good stuff. And it will satisfy the jonesing that I had for a big 4-engine bomber when I got the B-24. So those are my current builds, or what's coming, and I'm looking forward to getting into them shortly. And I'm going to do my damnedest to follow along with this camera right here. Can't promise I'll be perfect at it. I've got a thing for listening to podcasts and audiobooks while I work, and the camera really fucks with that. So maybe not. But I will do my damnedest to swing this thing around at opportune times to show interesting things happening with the builds, whether it's from an engineering and detail perspective or a technique perspective or whatnot. So that's that. Looking forward to sharing these with you as I kind of make my way through them, and fingers crossed they work out better than that Academy Hornet did. So yeah, that's it. Keep on modeling, keep on watching all that fun shit, and we'll check you later.